All right, I hit record. I
Okay.
can cut it in and out whenever, so I just figured I'd hit. But
Okay.
yeah. Well, you had texted me and you said I'd like to see you do a video with Natalie talking about travel, and then I was like, well, you both have walked across Europe, so
It's true.
yeah, I
Different
have
part.
not. So
Yeah.
But
So Natalie, you recently got back from travel, right?
yes,
How
I was
recently is recently?
recently, meaning December 15th, I landed in
Okay.
the US. So
Okay.
I was gone. I left on November 11th. So
Okay.
yeah. But I didn't walk all the way across Europe. I just walked across Spain.
I haven't walked across Europe. I accidentally walked to Wales once. But like
okay, tell this
I'm
story.
usually not walking anywhere if I can help it.
Tell this story.
How did you accidentally walk to Wales?
Well, I was living in York, and it was a weekend. I didn't have anything to do, and York's in the north side of England, and the fellow whose house I was staying at had a bunch of books, and one of them was about used bookstores, and I was flipping through them, and it said there's this town called Hay on Wye, which has more used bookstores than any other town per capita in the world. And I was like, well, that sounds pretty neat. And it's England, it's kind of small, so I'll go there. So I kind of like, didn't have internet accessibility at the time. Yeah, internet was there, but you had to like go to an internet cafe and pay £2 and sit
those
down at the
days.
computer and that sort of thing.
Internet
And
cafe.
so like pre-cell phone era. And so I took a train down. It was Sunday to the nearest stop to it that I could find on a map, which was a town called Hereford. And I got out, and the train had arrived at like 3:30 or something, and the last bus to Hay was at like 3 o'clock. And so I was like, oh well, that's too bad. And so I asked, I was like, is there a hostel in town or anything like that? And everybody was like, no. So I said, well, how far is Hereford? And somebody was like, yeah, it's probably about 45 minutes, maybe. I said, well, that's nothing. So I took off walking, not realizing that they probably meant by car.
Yeah.
And so I walked for a really long time, for like quite a few hours, and then and there was nothing there. It was just hedgerows and sheep and nothing. And just like a straight road that just went over these hills. And it started snowing, and it was like really wet snow, and
Gosh.
and I'm not much one for prepping properly for a trip, so my backpack was essentially just a pillowcase with straps. Like it was not like a framed backpack at all. So anyway, so I'm moving along, and finally I get to like a tavern or a bar or something, and so I stop in, and I'm like, how much farther is Hay? And they said, oh, it's maybe 25 minutes, and I was like, okay, well that's pretty good, and so then I start to walk, and they're like, wait, you're walking? And that's when I realized like everybody's framework for measurement was different. And so I asked, I was like, well, it was getting kind of late at this point, and so I said, well, do y'all do rooms? And they were like, we do not. And I was like, do you like, could I give you, like £10 for floor space, and just like y'all let me stay in here? And they're like, no. So so I kept on going, and I probably looked fairly disreputable. So I the three cars that passed, I stuck out my thumb, but nobody stopped. Giant beardy guy is not first thing that you want to like pull over for at night in the country. So I kept on going, and finally, I don't even know what time it was, but it was very, very cold, very wet. And I finally saw like this huge light off in the distance, and I thought, okay, good. Even if it's not Hay, at least it's some town. Like I'll be set. Like it just lit up the sky, because it was pitch black. I couldn't see like 3 inches in front of my face. I was just sort of walking along, and if you knew you were off the road if you like bumped into the square cut hedgerows, and then you went back onto the road. And so so it was over the crest of this hill, and so I was jogging up. I was so excited, and I crest over the hill, and it is a phone booth with like no, and you could see for miles beyond it. There's nothing. There's just a phone booth on the side of the road that has a light in it, and it's just so dark that this light makes sense. So I was
Oh,
like, okay, well, I guess I'll spend the night in the phone booth. So I tried to get into the phone booth and I like huddled up, but the ground, the the it didn't extend all the way to the ground. It opened for about a foot and a half, and so while I was moving, I was fine. As soon as I stopped moving, I got too cold, and so
oh
I
yeah.
was, I was pretty defeated, but I was like, well, I guess I'll just keep going. So, I got up and kept going and kept going. And another few hours later, I saw like actual town lights, and I got to Hay at probably about 4 o'clock in the morning. And there was nothing open until the next day at 9. And so like there weren't any restaurants, there weren't any, anything. I mean, and it's a tiny town except for the like 45 or 60 used bookstores that it has, and like one hotel or like little hotel, and then like a couple of restaurants. So nothing was open. So I was really sad because I didn't want to just stand there for another 5 hours. But there was a public restroom that was unlocked in the middle of town. And so I went into the public restroom and closed the door. And so at least that like kept the rain and the wind off, and it was cold, but it was okay. And it was too cold to sleep, but I just sort of sat in there and read Love in the Time of Cholera until things opened at like 9 a.m. And then I
Oh, that's
went and got a
awful.
bagel, and then spent as much money as I spent anywhere else on used books. And I filled up my bag with about
I was gonna
70
ask.
books that I then had to carry for the rest of my trip.
That's-
Um, I'm a
that's-
really dumb traveler. Like I'm really cheap in some ways. And uh,
70 books.
yeah, I mean, they were small books. They were paperbacks. Like I was really into Steinbeck at the time, and they had like every Steinbeck book, which, pre Amazon and pre eBay, like it was really hard to track
Yeah.
down specific books. Like you had to like scour used bookstores and things like that. And
Yeah.
so anything that I was like, I know I'm going to want this eventually, like I stocked up. And they had great covers too. There were these old like pan paperback covers from like probably the early 50s. They were real painterly and illustrative, and
That's cool.
they were great.
You still
Yeah.
have them?
Yeah, and I think I probably spent maybe $3 worth on food while I was there, because I was like, got to save that money for books. So I'm just like,
Oh my
this
gosh.
horrible wretch, like moving along, like hungry and tired and wet and cold, and just getting all
Isn't
these
that
books. 'Cause
That's like the worst though, when you're so cold that you can't sleep. Like that happened to me a couple times on this last trip that I did. But the worst was like, so I had shin splints at one point. Awful. Just terrible. Like it was like my first 2 weeks of walking, and like going into my second week, I like my shin was swollen at that point. And
so
like
you were actually like mine was just idiocy. Yours was by design.
I was actually walking on purpose. Yeah.
Wow.
And so, but I was also dumb because I took like my GoPro, my actual camera, and a Super 8 camera, and my computer. So my backpack should have had like clothes, food, sleeping bag, like a sleeping bag that was warm. But instead I bought a really light one because I was like, well, I need like the weight for my computer and my like 600 cameras that I brought.
Yeah.
So stupid. But yeah, so I was walking and my backpack was too heavy, and my I didn't have good arch support in my shoes. And so I ended up getting shin splints like the first week in one shin, to the point where like I was like limping around everywhere, and it was like creaky. I don't know if you've had shin splints. I know Jason has.
I haven't. I messed up my feet this year real bad walking around too far without good shoes.
Like your
So
arch.
now I know to get good shoes. Your feet don't really heal, so
No.
get good shoes, Natalie.
Yeah. So I got insoles for my shoes, and it started to help, but then my other leg started to swell, and I was like, oh no, I'm screwed. Like it was terrible. And so at this point I'd been walking with the same people for a couple weeks, and then we all just split off from each other, because these like 3 guys were like, we're going to do 40 kilometers a day. And I was like, I'm barely making 25. So I'm going to be able to do that. And then this particular night, my friend Maria was traveling with me, and then she was like, I'm going to keep going, but I think you should rest here because you can barely walk. And I was like, great. So I was like alone this night, and I go into they're called albergues. They're just hostels, but they're for pilgrims. And so I like go into it, and the guy is like, he's really nice, but he's like really weird. The guy who runs it, he had all this weird like space music that was playing, and it's like I'm in like a little village, like it's like a tiny little village that's like, it got like the biggest attraction is the big church, you know, like it's very old timey feel. And then you walk in and there's like neon lights and like space music happening, and he has like really crazy black hair, and I was just like, oh gosh, where did she leave me? Because she talked to him in Spanish, and he spoke some English, and she was basically like, my friend's injured, make sure that she's okay. And so like every 30 minutes he would just like knock on my door and be like, are you good? And I'm like, yes, I'm good. Yeah. But it was really sweet. But and like then he made me a paper flower because he did origami. So he asked my favorite color, made me a flower. But that place, for some reason, in like several different towns, they would do this thing where whenever they would go home, like the people who ran the albergues, they would just turn the heat off because they're like, well, we're not here anymore, so I gotta turn it off. And then all the people who were staying there would just freeze their butts off. So I was there with like 2 other people, were the only people in this albergue, and it is so cold, like miserably cold. And I woke up like all night long, also because I was in so much pain. Like if I rolled over, I would like get sore from like one hip and I'd have to roll the other one. I felt like an old lady. I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. And the cold just made it so much more terrible because it was like all your muscles were tight and it was awful. So I got up at like, eventually I think I got up at like 5:30 or 6 or something, and I was just like, forget it. And I packed my stuff and I just started walking, and it was like dark, and I had my headlamp on, and I was just trying to find my way through there. It was terrible.
Yeah, where did you start and where did you end?
I started in Pamplona, which is like the city.
Can you say what you did first?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I did the Camino de Santiago, and I did the French way. And so normally people start in Saint Jean Pied de Port, which is like right across the French border. But I don't know Spanish, so I was trying to find a bus. I couldn't find one, and like I had taken a train to Pamplona. And technically, if I wanted to start from the right spot, I could have walked 3 days up and then 3 days back down. But I was like, I'll just start from Pamplona, and then I'll add 3 days to the end and go all the way to Fistera, like the sea. So yeah, Pamplona is the city where they do the running of the bulls, I guess. Yeah, so that's where I started.
Yeah, Liz has been. I've never been to Pamplona.
It's actually a cool city. It's like, I guess it's like kind of a college town. There were like a lot of young people, and there's like a big college there or something.
Huh.
I don't know. Seems cool.
So what did you hike, Chris?
What did I what?
What did you hike when you went to Europe?
Oh, I didn't ever hike anywhere by design. It was just I ended up missing buses or getting thrown off trains or things like that, and then I would just walk to wherever I could find.
How did you get thrown off
why were
train?
you there? Like what
Well,
was
because
it?
like
Let's hear the story.
I mean the train thing, and it's just, you know, I had a Eurail pass, so in theory like you could do it, but I didn't know that like during Holy Week you had to make reservations. So I'm like going from, where was I going? Either Madrid to Barcelona or Barcelona to Paris or something like that. I think I started in Madrid. No, I don't know. Anyway, but I was going somewhere, and they went through and they were like, tickets, and I had my ticket. And they're like, what's your reservation? And I was like, they're like, you have to have a reservation. I was like, can I just sit in the dining car? And they're like, no, off at the next stop. And I was like, okay. And so it was like, I didn't know where it was, but I think I ended up walking to the nearest like city, which I want to say is Barcelona that time.
Okay.
Wherever it was, there was an abandoned stadium that was full of cats that I cut through, like just tens of thousands of feral cats. It was really creepy.
It's probably Spain. There's so many cats there.
That's 1,000.
I
So,
mean,
but
I'm
you
not joking. I mean, it was like you can fathom how many cats were in this crumbling old like soccer stadium. Like it was
Sounds
bonkers.
terrifying.
Yeah.
So why did you go there just to go to Europe? Was that, I mean, or was
Well,
there a specific reason?
back when I was always getting thrown out of stuff and missing my things. Like now I'm mostly better. I did do a dumb walk the first time I was in Denmark a few years ago. But yeah, most of my walks are just because I plan poorly. But I went when I was in college. I went and Liz was going to do a study abroad thing in Spain, and I thought, well, I want to do study abroad. And then I looked at how much it cost, and I thought, I don't want to do study abroad, but I still want to go to Europe. And so I stayed with friends of dad at different places in France and in England, and and then the rest of the time, like found the cheapest hostels that I could find, or slept on benches or whatever else, and just sort of, was real aimless with it. And I had a professor that let me do a couple of classes online, so I'd find an internet cafe. I'd read Chaucer in Middle English and write reports on it, and then try to do that in like 2 hours and like send it back in, because I could only afford like so much per day. Like I spent more on internet than I spent on food. I spent nothing on food. I just got a cheese and clementines and bread, and like that was it. Like the whole time I was there.
Oh,
And when I
tell
would
them.
stay with somebody, they'd often feed me, and it would be great. And then I met up with Liz and her friends in Italy for her spring break, and I spent as much in a week as I'd spent like the 2 months before that, because they kept eating real food. They're like, "Let's go eat some real food," and I was like,
Oh gosh.
"Eating outside
Is this
with
when
like a loaf of bread." Like,
did you go there to meet her? I thought I heard so one time like you went to win her back or something in Europe.
Oh yeah,
oh
Anton.
no, we were broken up at the time, so we broke up before before both of us went over there. And I knew very much that I wanted to get back together with her, but we had tentatively planned to get together for her spring break, regardless. But she didn't want to get back together with me, and so she had her friend Noel, who went everywhere just as sort of like a romance blocker with us. And Noel was absolutely charming. Like we were glad for her company, but it made wooery difficult.
Yeah.
Wooery?
Wooery. Is that a real word?
I don't know.
I don't know. I like it.
I'm gonna use it.
Yeah.
Wooery.
But yeah, we went, one of the places we went to Venice. And again, oh man, I'm so bad to travel. So Allie met me in Paris, our cousin.
Oh.
And we went around and did stuff, and I'm slightly less cheap than I used to be, but man, back then, because I had like what $750, and it had to last me like 6 months. So it was, like, yeah. So anyway, so we get to like the Eiffel Tower, and it's like like the elevator is €2 to get to the top, which at the time is like $1.50. And I'm like, no, we are taking the stairs. Like,
it's like 20 now. It's so much more expensive.
I know. I mean, at the time it wasn't much, but it was too much for me. I was like, you got to save that money for books. I'm like, Allie, look, there's these French comics. You can't get this stuff here. I will drop €20 on this weird musketeer comic, but we are not paying more than $2 for dinner. Like I'll sing until somebody gives me enough money for a pineapple, and then we're set. So we would do that sort of thing. But we went to Venice, and I was like, we'll do a gondola. Like that'll be the romanticest thing ever. And I wrote a song for her, and I'll sing it for her. Because I hadn't told her yet that I wanted to, that I was still in love with her and wanted to get back to her. I wanted it to be an appropriate moment. And so we're on this gondola, and like, I'm like, Liz, I have to tell you, and the gondolier kept interrupting for sightseeing. He'd be like, hey, sorry lady, that building used to be brown, and like these really uninteresting things, and it kept it. So I don't know. So it was so anyway, so after the gondola trip, she's like, well, that's a lot, I'm gonna have to think about that. I was like, okay. There we go. And so it took like another me trying to be a better me and
Yeah.
demonstrate that I was a worthwhile candidate for her affection before she
Yeah.
he agreed.
Before she agreed.
Nice.
But yeah, so I was just there for just that. Like I just thought I would, take it all in. And so while I was there is when I got when it was looking at like the French comics mostly. Like they had this all the stuff that I wasn't seeing here, and it was just I mean, like your dad had like Asterix books and Tintin stuff and things like that, and you didn't really have that kind of thing in American comic shops. You just had mostly superheroes and sci-fi stuff, and seeing these different genres and slice of life things and drawings of buildings and stuff like that, I got really excited about drawing again, and it kind of led me towards what I do now.
Oh
So
wow.
it was a very formative trip for me, but yeah, real aimless.
Wow.
Was yours a religious pilgrimage, Natalie, or was it for the heck of it? Like, was it,
Don't
I know,
laugh.
Did you find the Lord?
No, it wasn't
I mean,
religious.
did you need to touch a relic, like heal their shin splints?
Well, a lot of people do it because like it's a very Catholic thing to do, and the tradition is to go inside the churches and pray in every city, which would just take so long, but people do it. But no, I didn't do it for religious reasons. I mostly just did it because I like kind of was needing the space away from everyone, and so I was originally supposed to go to Nepal for 3 months, and then
That's
that
where I thought you went. I assumed you were in Nepal or Tibet or wherever, and then
and all of
today
a sudden I'm like,
now me
oh,
finding out that you didn't go to.
yeah, I didn't end up going there. I went to Spain, obviously, instead. And it was like so good for me because for me, like I always my brain's always like moving really quickly and I'm thinking about a lot of things all the time. So the times that I like can calm down enough to like feel things or like, be in touch with my feelings is when I'm walking. And so it's funny because I did like a little mini documentary while I went, which is why I brought like
Don't worry, I'll link it to this video because it needs more views. She
Oh,
uploaded it to
I didn't know
YouTube.
you'd done it. Like,
Yeah,
that's
it's on
why I wasn't
YouTube.
sure if this was something
It's
you were
like got
sharing.
like almost 2,000 views already. It's crazy. She's
I
like
have no idea how
she's
that
YouTube
happened.
famous now.
I don't know
It's
how that
great.
happened, but one of the guys on the video, his name's Simon. He's like this older guy from the UK, super cool dude. He like lives in Colombia now and does like all this like cool ministry there. But he described it as like when you start walking, you have like an orchestra in your head, and it's just like there's so much going on all the time. And then the more you walk, because you get up every day, and eventually, like all you can think about is, oh my gosh, my body hurts so bad. Like, and then like that's your focus. And then once your body adjusts by like week 2 or week 3, then you can finally think like, oh, like, okay, this is like what I want to do when I get home, and like kind of readjust. And it was funny because like everyone I talked to along the way, they were all like doing it for a reason. Everyone was like, I needed to get away because of like this or that and like all this different stuff. And then we would all be like, are we transformed yet? Like, are we new people? And we didn't feel it, And then as soon as we got to the end, it was kind of like you look back and you realize that you've kind of built better habits, just being away from your community. And I don't know, like it was really inspiring. And I've like the past couple of years been thinking about doing wilderness therapy. I've like thought about going back to school for it and stuff. And then when I got back, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna like apply for like some field guide jobs and see if I can get in. And so I've been like applying for those, and I had an interview today actually. So fingers crossed. But
Staying in the area, like Cherokee National Forest type of stuff, or
it's in the it's like in, oh my gosh, what town is it in? It's in North Carolina, but it's like 3 hours from me. So it's in the Smokies. And yeah, it's like 8 days on, 6 days off. So I would like camp for 8 days with people, and then 6 days I just drive back to Chattanooga and just be here. So it seems super cool. And honestly, like for me, that's why I did it. Cause I think like being like just doing the simple things every day, like waking up and being like, what am I going to eat for breakfast? How far am I going to walk? Am I going to be able to walk that far, or am I going to collapse? Like, am I going to find a place to stay tonight? You know, it was just like we were all in that just like survival mode.
Mhm.
And it was so nice. It was so great. Yeah.
That is so neat. I, you know, not nearly as long a thing, but I went up to the cabin for a week to do like brush clearing, and it was sort of that same thing. It's
Yeah.
like there's nobody to talk to. You can't watch anything. You're just like I'm getting some writing done, and when I'm not writing, I'm out clearing some of the trails that have gotten overgrown and uh walking around, and that's it. You know, I know I've got to gather firewood. I know I have to fix dinner. That
Yeah.
that's it. You know,
It's just super simple.
yeah. But
Did you
it
enjoy it?
does. I mean, it gives you a sense of being able to just you get bored so fast, and then you start, you know, thinking about
You,
other things that you usually put off thinking about.
yeah, it's true. And I think the reason why you get bored so fast is because you don't want to think about those things. And you're like, I got to do like 10 other things now to distract myself. And like, yeah, when you can't, then it's like, oh, well, dang it. I guess I'll just think about this stuff now. And yeah, so I mean, it was a cool experience for me because I think I had a lot of unhealthy habits just like in my social life of not be, like I'm really bad at saying no to people and things like that. And so like learning to like basically taking a month away from all these people and coming back and having that space of like, okay, maybe they forgot that I was this way and now I can adjust our relationship, you know. So, and it's honestly it's worked so far, so it's been good. Yeah.
Now, are you naturally isolating, or are you naturally a group person, or is it like back and forth?
I'm such a group person, and that's why I like struggle with, because I will say yes to everyone, and if I'm at home by myself for too long, like at this point I've been home alone for like 2 hours and I'm like, well, maybe I should go do something. Like it's been a while.
We're something. We're something.
Yeah, no, this is helpful. If this wasn't happening, I wouldn't be at my house anymore.
Yeah.
I'd be gone by now. But yeah, no, I'm definitely a people person, which is like good in some ways, but also like I tend to not give my brain the space it needs to like, you know, do its own thing. Maybe when I'm sleeping, it's doing something important and I just don't know.
Jason,
Yeah.
how about you? I think of you as a by yourselfer, but I don't, you know, that's
Probably more so.
me putting it on you. So
Yeah, probably. I'd be more comfortable by myself. Yeah, I think so. I like times like that. Like I'll go out and walk by myself for hours and hours and hours all the time. And that's like the best thing in the world to me is when I can just go out and be by myself with my thoughts and yeah, and just read or something. Yeah, I like that a lot better. Yeah, if I'm around, especially if I'm around crowds, I love people, but I hate crowds. Like it's weird. I love the individual people, but if I'm in big crowds,
I like people in the abstract while I'm not liking individual people. I like crowds.
you like what?
Without the, you know, well, pre-COVID I liked crowds. You know,
Okay.
Yeah.
crowds. But like I love going to the mall on Christmas Eve. I'm like, oh man, look at all this stuff. Like,
Oh
but
yeah.
but
No,
I don't want to. I don't. I'm a very I'm a social person, but I'm very like selfishly social. Like I want to be by myself most of the time, and like, you know, every 2 hours I'm like, I need human interaction, and so I'll, you know, go on, like, social media is good for that because I can go on Twitter for like 10 minutes, and then I'm like, and I'm good, and now I can get back to being by myself. But
Yeah.
but as a result, like I have one friend that I text with regularly, and maybe 2 or 3 friends that I call once a year. Uh, and that's like it in terms of from home,
Yeah.
like here stuff. Like I'll see people at conventions, and I'll see people when I'm, you know, visiting, or when there's a get together like at the cabin or family things or stuff like that. But otherwise, I'm just like, nope, Liz and Penny, that's plenty.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you have a built-in friend with marriage, so that's
Yeah.
nice.
Well, you hope that you do. I do. So that's
Yeah. No,
Someday.
that I don't know if it's an extrovert thing, but like if I'm by myself for like the whole morning, like if I haven't talked to anyone until noon, the first person I talk to, I just have to apologize to them because I'm usually like, I'm like stuttering over my words because I'm just like, oh my gosh, someone's talking to me. And then I'm like, I'm usually way more chill than this. I'm so sorry. I just haven't talked to anyone yet today. And they're always like, oh, okay. But like, I've talked to other extroverts and they say the same thing where it's like, if we go too long without talking to someone, it's like we forget how to talk to them. And too long is like 4 hours. It's super weird. So yeah, I don't know. I guess Jason doesn't feel that way.
No, I
Probably
don't.
not.
I don't know. I guess I'm kind of hypocritical though because I'm doing this stuff. So, but I kind of wonder how long I can keep this up too, though. Is these YouTube conversations like trying to be proactive and do them, you know? Because I'm like, because I'm perfectly content to not do them as well. Like I'd be fine if I was just went out and slept in the woods or something instead of.
I get how tricky it can be. I was doing like talks with other cartoonists and storytellers and posting them up pretty regularly. But man, like it was getting to the point where I was, wanting to talk to people that I didn't know particularly well. And if a conversation doesn't click for me, like if there's not like an easy back and forth, like especially in instances like that, I want to do, ask a question and sit back and, listen to what the person has to say. But man, when somebody's a 2-word answer person, like I was like, that's it, I'm done, I'm out. So I had like that happened twice and I'm like, nope.
Yeah, forget it.
Yeah, I mean, I do like I'm not the type of person that like shuns social things. Like I do think that is like the kingdom of God in a way, is being connected with family and socially and everybody being connected. And because I don't even think you can really know who you are as a person without any of that. So I'm not like, oh, I never want to be around people ever. Like I appreciate it all. I'm just more inclined to just like especially if I'm around people all day, I'm usually like, all right, I think I'm gonna go hide for a little bit.
Yeah.
So
No,
I don't know.
That's like my dad was like that, and I'm like that too. Like if I'm on vacation or something, it's rarely a vacation because after if I'm at somebody's house or something like that, after about 2 days, I'm like, I've got to get by myself for a little while. So I'll go for a drive, or I'll hole up in a room that nobody's in or something like that. But
the bathroom.
But I'm like reverse Natalie. Like I start to get antsy after like 4 hours of being around people.
Yeah, that's how I am too.
Yeah. No, there was one day where I was trying to do a full day by myself. I was like, I'm not going to talk to anyone. And I told everyone in advance. I was like, if you want to hear from me, you're not going to today. That's not happening. And so I like literally, I grabbed a book and like water, snacks, put it all in this like tiny backpack that I have. And I was like, I'm going to hike 10 miles into the woods. And so I just start hiking in the woods. And then after a while, also when I got to this hike, there was caution tape everywhere. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't be here, but I'm going to go anyway. And so I just kept walking. And then once I was deep into the woods, I was like, I wonder if there's anyone out here. And I wonder if I should be out here. And so then I turned around and I read for a little while. And then I went back. And then by the time I got back to my car, it was like 4 p.m. And I hadn't talked to anyone all day. And I was like, I can do this. And the biggest thing for me is eating by myself. I hate eating out by myself. And I have an easier time eating in by myself now, but like going to a restaurant.
Oh, I love eating out by myself.
I hate eating with people.
I'll wait. Like I'll save up a special day. I'll bring a book. I'll go to the Chinese buffet. Like, I love it.
I like it now, but I used to hate it. I thought it was like so sad when I saw other people do it. I was like, I don't have any friends. Like that sucks. And so I didn't want to.
All
so
you
I
have is a
drive all the
book.
way back home because I like had driven an hour to go on this hike. So I drove all the way back home. At this point, it's like 5:30 or something. And I was like, you know what, forget it. And so I called someone and I was like, do you want to get dinner with me? And I didn't even make it a full day. Not even a full day. But now I could maybe do that. I think going on this trip was kind of helpful in that regard, but like yeah, no, that's so difficult for me.
Oh, even I like movies. Like I prefer like I've seen 3 movies since the pandemic started in the theater, and 2 of them I went to see by myself because I'm like, I just want to watch this by myself. Like
No,
That's
see,
how our mom is.
that yeah, and that's something actually we talked about that in one of my film classes because my mom is so much like that. Where like part of me is like she would be the kind of person that would vote like, yeah, let's do VR movies now so I can be in the movie, you know, because she like loves movies. But for me and for a lot of film people in my classes, we were like, no, it's like communal. You go together and then everyone's laughing at the same time and it's just like super nice. And I don't know, for me, I'm like, I love doing that kind of stuff with other people.
I think there can be a benefit from the communal experience of watching something in a larger group or things like that. But
It's just not for you.
sometimes it is like I saw French Connection with some friends and that was fun.
Okay.
And I've got a buddy who like if there's like we've gone to see maybe a handful of action movies that I was really keen on seeing, which are less big budget ones, but like ones that I thought were going to be really fun. And I really enjoy watching them with him, but it's like mostly, I don't know, like I can watch movies that I care about. I want to watch by myself.
Mhm.
And movies that I don't care about, I'm fine watching with other people because then we can comment and we can do whatever else.
Yeah.
And it's more experiential and I can be more forgiving of the quality of the movie.
Yeah, that's fair. I only like watching movies with people if they're actually watching them with me. If
Yeah.
I'm like in a movie theater and they're not paying attention, or like they're at my house and I'm like, this is my favorite movie, and then they get on their phone, I'm like, I'm turning it off. Forget it. I'm turning it off. So I get that. That makes sense. Sorry, Jay, should we be talking about travel?
No, you can talk about whatever. I don't care.
So
Okay.
what prompted the documentary? Was that something you knew you wanted to do going in?
Yeah, so I did not do any research. So when you say that you're not a prepared traveler, I resonate with that. I'm never prepared ever. Like I kid you not, I decided I wasn't going to Nepal and then I was like, I need to find a place to go because I rented out my room. So I don't have a place to stay anymore. And so I literally booked a ticket for the next week to go to Spain. And my research consisted of me trying to find YouTube videos about the Camino, and all of them are terrible. And then I watched that movie. I watched part of it, the one with Martin Sheen, the way, or something like that. And it's like he walks the French way, and I don't like it.
Is it a modern thing? Is
It's
he like an old timey pilgrim? Like I don't know what it is.
No, it's like a modern one. He like
Okay.
he walks the French way because his son was doing it, and then his son passes away in the beginning of the movie, and so he does it for him. I didn't even finish it.
Michael
I was
Sheen
like,
or Martin Sheen?
Martin Sheen.
Okay.
And
yep.
Emilio Estevez is in it, actually.
Okay.
So, but anyway, it's not that good. I don't recommend it. But I like watched part of it because I was like, oh, I can do this for research, whatever. And it's not very good. And so after like looking for stuff that was good, I was like, I just can't find anything that really gives me a feeling of what this is like.
Mhm.
And so I decided that I wanted to take my cameras with me, but I didn't know what I wanted to do until I got there. And then I would like sometimes you're walking alone and sometimes you're walking with people, you know, because like it depends on what pace you're going and stuff. And if you happen to be with someone and you walk the same pace for a while, then you just talk to them. And I would ask them like, why are you walking? And they'd be like, oh, I just want to clear my head. And then we walk for like another hour and then they would just like tell me all this stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, you did not just want to clear your head. Like so much going on. And so I decided after that, I was like, I really want to get people's stories along the way, because I like that's something that's always been important to me, because like going from script writing in college and coming up with like I would write like comedies and stuff, which was super fun. But then once I finished school, I was like, I kind of just want to like tell real people's stories because they have such good ones. And so this was like my first dip into doing documentary filmmaking, which is something I've always wanted, like not always, but lately since college have wanted to do.
Ever since I was a wee girl.
Ever since I was a wee
Documentaries.
like 20-year-old. Yeah. No. But yeah, so it was cool. That's mostly why I decided to do it, but I had no plan for it. I was literally like, I'm just gonna interview people, I guess. And then I just picked my moments with the rest of it. Cause I mean, pulling your camera out of your backpack is super annoying. And so a lot of times I just wait for a moment that I was like, ooh, I want to remember this. And I would just pull my camera out and get it. So like someone asked me, like, did you have to shift through like hours and hours of footage? And I was like, kind of, but it wasn't that bad because I didn't overshoot anything because it was a hassle to shoot anything. So yeah, I don't know. It was good. I mean, it was fun though. It was super fun.
Well,
I'll send it to you.
I look forward to watching it. That's great.
Thanks.
Because yeah, I knew, I needed short stuff and animation stuff, but I had never seen documentary style stuff. So that's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah,
Got it
no,
right
I'm
here.
happy to send it. Do what?
Here's it right here on her YouTube. This is a clip
Oh
of
yeah.
it. So
This is the part I was talking about.
this is right here.
Yeah, he was talking about the opera in your head thing. That's
Oh,
Simon.
okay. Nah.
Yeah. So it's kind of long. It's like 40 minutes. The issue is that I did not bring audio equipment because my back would have broken probably. And so the audio is really rough at times. That's why there's subtitles through the whole thing. And some of it's not in English too. So there's like subtitles for like the Spanish and the French and the Italian. So yeah.
Well,
31 subscribers, 1,515 views. How did you do that?
I had like 5 subscribers before this video. And my like most popular one was that bunny wedding I did for Caitlin and Ava. That was the only video that had a lot of views. It was so sad.
Funny. Yeah. So where you guys where's your favorite place that you've been travel wise?
Oof.
Including the US.
Chris, don't you like love, was it Norway? Don't you just keep going back to Norway?
Well, I keep going back because I get hired to go back.
Okay.
But it's Denmark, and I really like it. But I teach. There's a couple of schools there that I've taught, and they're affiliated that I've taught some classes too that I really like. And I do really like it there, but I have not taken advantage of Denmark proper. Like I haven't really explored outside of that specific area. I went to, there's a recreation Viking village not too far from it that I was like, I'll go out there. And I went out there and they're like, it's only open from June to such and such. And I was there in February. So that was one of those really long walks that was fruitless. But really like my favorite places are either York, where I lived for the longest, just because I love all the old stuff, and it's got buildings there that are like 2,000 years old, and or it was like a Roman city, and then it was a Saxon city, and then it was a Viking city, and then and so it's gone through all these hands, and there's all these fingerprints everywhere, and the houses are all really old and well preserved. Like the house where I lived was 700 years old.
Wow.
And it's just a really neat place, and I like taking it in. But I also really love Paris because of the bookstores and comic shops. And so Paris is my favorite place to go if I have money to spend and stuff. So I like, and again, like talking about like preparation, like I figured out, like before I ever left the US, I had a map where all the different comic shops were, and like where the things, because so if anybody watching this doesn't know, I'm a cartoonist, and I like studying the work of other people, and the Franco-Belgian comics industry has been a really flourishing one for a very, very long time, and they do very different things than we do in America. And if you can find, and a lot of the stuff, you know, is long out of print, and you can't necessarily find it, and so you kind of have to scour these shops to find things, or there's specialty versions, or like black and white versions of things that are usually published in color and stuff like that. And so I made this list of like 13 that we're all sort of walking distance from Notre Dame, and so I stayed in rooms above Shakespeare and Company, which is like an English language bookstore across the street.
Yeah.
Cathedral. And so I was like, so I'll just, you know, every day go out and try these different things. And I also did, you know, Parisian things. Like I went to a few of the museums and, you know, some of the cathedrals and things like that. But it wasn't until I got home that I was like, you know, someday I really want to go to like Reims or something. And I was making a list of like some other things, because we've got a bunch of some of our best ancestors are buried at this other cathedral. And I was like, I don't know where it is, but I'll look it up. I get home, I look on a map, it's like 10 miles outside of Paris. And I'm so mad. I'm like, oh, then it had a fire a couple years ago after Notre Dame. So it's like, you know, hopefully everybody's still in good shape. But I know y'all have done like a Swiss visit, but if, you know, maybe everybody can get together and do like a French English Nanside thing where we visit all the graves of the, you know, whoever's.
That would be cool. I actually don't know much about Nanside other than like the Sicilian stuff.
Yeah.
I barely know stuff about that, but I don't know anything about the English side.
Well, it's on the Norton side. So Daisy Stem, her side, which is Blind Joe, his wife's side.
Okay.
Is the English, French before that, German before that side.
Okay.
So we're still all generally from the, you know, the Alps, but you know, we just have circuitous routes to get there. So
yeah, I did that what's it called, the 23andMe thing, and it's all just like in like Western Europe. Literally all of it. I was like, wow.
Yeah, we've got no variety in our
not at all.
But but it's pretty neat. So Aunt Kristen gave me a, like, for our wedding, she was, you know, I asked if I knew that she had a bunch of Aunt Alice's notes and family notes and things like that on family stuff, and I asked if she'd make me a copy of them, and she did, and that was our wedding present. And so we read them on the way to our honeymoon, like just stories about different people, and we thought that was pretty neat. And then I've used that as a springboard to find more stuff. But we sort of hit pay dirt with one real good relative, or I say one relative who came from a well-documented line, and then that made it easy to track down everybody else. So but I've gone to a couple of the grave sites for a couple of them, but I'd like to do more. And a lot of them are in Europe if you go back past about like 1550.
Wow. Huh, cool. So Paris is your favorite?
Oh, what?
No, York is my favorite, and I also really like Edinburgh, but York and Edinburgh are both really neat. York is less hilly, and I'm lazy. So
Gotcha.
That's a fact. I don't know. Yeah. How about you? What's your favorite place that you've been?
That's tough, because I feel like there's some places that I like the culture more, and some places I like the scenery more. If I were picking for scenery, I would pick like Switzerland or Iceland. If I were picking for like culture or experience, the best experience I've had, I think, was like, my last trip was amazing, so that was great, but that doesn't really count, it feels like, because it was like this weird bubble I was in. But I think the people in Ireland are really interesting. I think like that's probably been like one of my favorite groups of people that I've met, because I'm not a huge traveler for his history, which is kind of sad. like we
Dude,
went on
that's
a
my
cruise.
main thing. And everybody else hates it. Everybody's like, no, let's take something in. I was like, no, we have to find this rock that somebody stood on.
Yeah, well, like that's why
A lot
my
of people
family
do
went
that
to
though.
Italy and I didn't love it.
Not in my circle.
Wait, what?
Oh, he said a lot of people do that. And I was like, not in my circle. Like,
Oh, really? Huh.
yeah,
Oh,
no.
see,
No, my closest friend who I go to stuff with, like he likes going to art museums and things like that. But if I tried to take him to a history museum, oh
yeah,
Really? Huh.
yeah.
That's
But
interesting.
see, that's how I feel about art museum. Like I'm like, art museums are fine. Like I'll breeze through and stop if something grabs me. He's like, what? You're missing out. Look, it's a Paul Klee on the back of a napkin. I was like, I don't care.
So you go,
Yeah.
you judge more on the people, Natalie, than the
yeah.
place?
I like to. My favorite thing about traveling is going and just like staying in a place long enough to like fully understand the people, and not fully, but like understand them and like have a good enough connection with the locals that they could take you somewhere. Like when I was in Northern Ireland with Melissa, I think it helps being in like either by yourself or with one person. Because when I was there, like this random lady who was very drunk showed up on the street and was like, let me show you around. And like, I love that. And then the same thing happened when I was in Iceland. I was in Iceland with David, and people would just like come up and be like this one girl was like, hey, I know that it's really popular to go to the hot springs, but we were on a budget, so we weren't going to hot springs. She was like, but instead you could go to these public pools in Reykjavik where all the locals hang out. And we were like, okay, it's only $10, sure. And so like I do it. I love seeing the scenery, but I mostly love like seeing the culture of the people. I think that's what's like the most fun for me.
So Ireland's your favorite?
I don't know. I don't know that Ireland's my favorite. I don't know. It's hard to pick a favorite.
Yeah.
Uh,
So where have
I
you
don't,
been? Can you guys do that? Name where you've been, or is it too much? It's too much.
Mine's not too much. I don't know. Canada. I don't know if Canada counts.
Sure.
it counts. Yeah.
Yeah, England, Northern Ireland. I've never been to regular Ireland.
That's funny
Yeah.
that you've never been to. Yeah.
Let me see, Scotland, a couple times. France, Italy, Spain, Denmark. I think that's it.
That's a
Well,
lot.
and you
And then a
also were
bunch of
on
stuff.
like
Yeah.
a pirate ship for a while, so that's
Yeah,
somewhere.
that's one of the
At
Canadas. I
sea.
started up, yeah, I started over near Vancouver, when I was doing the tall ship.
Yeah, that's cool. Are you writing yours down or something, Natalie? Because
No,
you
I
went
was
to like 5 in 1 year, right?
I was
5
looking
different
for a
countries.
note. 5 in 1 year.
When you went to Iceland, I thought
I
well, that year you went to, because you went there, then India,
Then Turkey.
that's
Oh,
it.
and Ukraine. I did go to Ukraine too. But
I
I'd
could have
already
swore you
been.
went somewhere else. I thought you went somewhere else too.
I don't think so. I was trying to get to as many countries as my age, and I have not done it yet. I think I'm at 21 countries. I think. Or maybe
May I
yeah.
ask your age?
24.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm getting there. I'm really close, but
Close.
yeah.
Oh,
I've been
Wales. I guess Wales. I don't know if Wales counts as separate because it's part of the UK.
I
Oh,
think
anyway, that town I walked to ended up being in Wales, which I didn't know until I got
That's
there, and it was Welsh. So
That's fun.
I think that counts because I feel like it. Yeah, I would say that probably counts. Because also, like, I've been to New Zealand, and that's part of the UK technically, right? Is it?
yes,
Actually, I'm not sure. But
it might be part of the British Empire. I don't know if it's part
yeah,
of the
maybe
UK or
it's
not,
part of
but
the
It seems very weird that you would travel for history and not plan Like that seems a little.
Well, I mean, I do more planning now.
Okay, that's good.
Let me rephrase. I plan what I want to see. I do not check to see if it is open that time
Oh,
of
okay.
year,
Yeah.
what days they're open, how far it is, things like that. I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna go here, and then it ends up being a lot farther or a lot closer
Yeah,
than I
that's
expect it to be.
that's a bummer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I don't know. But yeah, y'all have been all sorts of neat places. I've never been outside of Europe. And I really want to do some Middle East and North Africa places. Like there's I want to go to Morocco.
That'd be cool.
I'd like to go to Algiers. I'd like to go to Israel. I'd like to go like there's a handful of places that I think would be really neat to go to.
I was gonna try to go to Israel at the beginning of this
Greece, I
year,
wanna go
but
to Greece.
it was closed.
It's
As
Mhm.
far
hard
as
to
I know,
get
it's
in.
still closed.
Yeah. Jace, you should talk about India. That was like the first, besides Canada. That was like I told Jason, he was
I
like, I want to
haven't-
go to India. And I was like,
like-
you're really throwing yourself in the fire there, but okay. Let's
I haven't.
do
So
India.
I didn't go to Switzerland. Like I don't know why I'm in this conversation really because I really haven't traveled that much. And if you ask me my favorite place,
I
like
thought you went to Switzerland with the.
no, all those when they went on the family vacations, I never went on any of them.
Not because he wasn't invited.
No, yeah, it was yeah. But I mean, so yeah, but India, other than Canada, and we went on a cruise to the Bahamas once, so I don't know if that counts either. So India was my first like out of country place. I don't know why. I just kind of was. It's like just I guess one of those inner intuition things. I was like, oh, it seems like I'd want to go there more than just kind of drawn there or something. I don't know, but it was really cool. It was a fun experience. It was I like the. But see, even my favorite part about it was when we went to see the village. Like at the end, we were in like northeastern India, and we had to hike up the mountain to see this village. And there was like a shaman guy there wearing all his garb and everything. But to me, like if I could go back, I think my dream would just be like, I get into the village and then I just wander off in the jungle by myself, and like just like that would be so much fun to me. Even if there's tigers and cobras, I'm like I don't care. I'll go do the Mowgli thing for like a month and then forget it. I'd probably die, but like that would. But that was the coolest part I thought because it was literally like the Jungle Book. Like Natalie had a picture of people were bathing in a pond. Like you go up in the mountain and there's a pond in there, and they're like with the lily pads. It was fun. It was a fun trip.
There were elephant tracks through the village too, because they had like walked through the night before.
Yeah,
That is so neat, man.
Yeah.
And then the monkeys came out. The monkeys were not in the jungle. They were like in the city, and they came out at like this time of night, and it was like in the evening when we were driving back, and there were monkeys everywhere. It was crazy. But they were like squirrels or something.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah.
That is one of my big things is wandering off into the woods of wherever I am.
You'd like to do that?
If you have phone service and I sometimes have a compass with me, and that makes it, I'm just like, well, I'll head in this direction and then I'll head back the other direction.
Yeah.
But I like that, but like a lot of places you have, unexpected phone service, or at least unexpected to me that you have phone service. In places like I've gone into the Everglades a couple of times, and I'm like, I get better service in the Everglades than I get like on my street. Like it's weird.
It's kind of annoying almost.
Yeah.
But like I wish, I do wish we had. On the one hand, I like that up at the mountain property, there's you do have that isolation if you want it and things like that, but it does make it really tricky. I was trying to do some mapping while I was up there, and without a GPS, I'm just sort of like, well, where's the river? How far am I from that? And where's this peak? And I know that's the site. So it's, I am ill-equipped to do it without being able to look at a phone and being like, oh, okay, I'm here on the map. So I bet there's like some kind of non-phone based GPS stuff you can get, but I don't know how much it is, and I'm not interested enough to look.
Yeah.
But it's still neat. Like, but that's a fun part. It's just sort of like wandering off into the, whatever the wilderness is. I don't know that I would wander into the jungle. I feel like that kills you. quick.
Yeah, I'd probably die, but that's all right. It'd be an
no.
adventure. You have to go get raised by the wolves. That's what it is.
Yeah. I will say I met a guy from France, and I'm telling his story on here. So hopefully he never sees this. And I'm not gonna say his name, but he did like a wilderness thing where like you go out into the woods and you learn how to survive basically, and they don't give you any food. All you have is like a tarp or something, and you have to find your own food. And he was out there for like I think like a month or something, and he said they were trying to like harvest mushrooms off of this tree, and somehow they like hit the tree really hard and this bird's nest fell on the ground. And he was like, there were all these baby birds in it, and I just picked one up and I just just ate its head off. And he told me the story and I was like, oh my God. And he was like, I don't know what it was. It was just like, I was so hungry that like I felt the warm blood going down my throat. And I was like, this is the best feeling I've ever felt. And he's like, I ate every bit of that baby bird except for its like feet. And he was like, and everyone else did too. Everyone just
What? That's so gross. I don't think I could do that.
You have
Well,
to if you're gonna
don't
walk
think
into the
now,
jungle.
but once you haven't had meat,
I'd go hungry.
Yeah.
I'd just go hungry.
You're not gonna eat a little baby bird.
I don't think I
At
could
that
do it.
point, they're falling out of the tree. They're not gonna. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they're gonna die, but yeah.
I know, but like maybe cook them. But
Yeah,
he
you can
did.
take the time to just put it
He
on
was
the
just like-
stick or something.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a little weird. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not a big fan. Like when I was younger, I was like, oh, that's the type of stuff is great. Nope, not anymore.
No.
Like I want my comforts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Like I don't need heat or something, but like I have like a big sheepskin. It was like a rug, and now I've made it into like a cloak thing. And so I took that up to the cabin. So anytime I was in the cabin, I was just wearing this giant sheet when I was working and writing and stuff.
Do you have that with you now? Can we see it?
Yeah, so yeah, I'll
yeah. Okay, I was also curious to see if he was wearing long johns or not, but he had jeans on.
Oh, that's good because he got up from the screen.
Yeah. His background looks so much good. Oh my God, this is great.
It's fluffy, it's comfortable, it's very warm. I got my armholes for it, so
I like that.
Wow.
Nice.
That
It
is
does look
you're
very
going
warm.
to be moving around and not you don't want to bump into things, but yeah.
It is kind of like a poncho. That's nice.
Yeah, it's that's what I did. Like I had this rug. It had been like in Dad's office, and Mom was getting rid of it, and I was like, I'll take it. And so I had this, and I was like, well, let me look and see like how my poncho is cut. And I was like, they're the same size because I've technically been to Mexico, but I was a baby. I don't remember it because Mom and Dad used to live on the border. And they'd take me back and forth across when until we moved when I was however old, 6 months or something. So I have like the poncho that Dad had there, and I was like, well, the hole's like this, and so I just cut it, and I was like, oh, I can just pop it on. It's
Nice.
it's
I like it.
That's awesome.
It's good.
So
It looks very cozy.
Yeah.
it's probably too warm to wear right now, so I'll pop it. But I mean, it breathes, so that's nice.
That is nice. Oh man. All right, Jace, do you have any other travel questions for us?
No, I guess not. I don't know.
So Jason, are you more environmentally geared, like when you're traveling? Are you like taking in
I
like, the
would be
buildings and
definitely.
foliage and stuff?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I'd like sometimes the artistic buildings, I guess, like a cathedral or something. I would like to see like stuff that's really, or like maybe like when we went to Athens, that was kind of cool to see those buildings there. But even at the same time, I almost enjoy the fact that they're in ruins better, which is weird to say. Like I like the yeah, I don't know, but I definitely I do like, I think the scenery more. Like when we went out west, I liked Moab, and Zion was cool to see and stuff like that. And but even being out there, when we were out there, I was like, one of my favorite places ever is honestly the property that we go to. Like
Mhm.
it's just, it's
Mhm.
green, it's lush, it's got a river flowing through it. I'm just like, if it,
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like I like stuff in that neck of the woods and around where my mom lives just about more than anywhere else.
yeah, yeah.
Uh
I think it's just the
yeah.
fact that I'm in it all the time. Maybe I get comfortable with it, so it's not like there. But then if I go somewhere else, I'm just like, I think home is my favorite place in the world. Like I really, really like Tennessee. I love East Tennessee. Like the
Tennessee,
Hiwassee where I
Tennessee
used
is
to
great,
live.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and Western North Carolina too is just like
Oh
is
yeah.
just great. It's I anywhere with a lot of boulders and moss and trees, like I'm happy. That's what I want. Boulders, moss, and trees.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty
Yep.
for sure. Yeah, I think I'm more based around probably the nature aspect of it, um but I don't know. I'm getting more to the point where I appreciate all of it, but I don't really like cities though at all. Like I like going to big cities, like even in the US or something like it just doesn't I don't know. For some reason it doesn't really do much for me. Like went to
I
St.
think
Louis
I think
and
you'd really like New Orleans if you haven't been to New
I have been
Orleans.
in New Orleans, yeah.
It's you have or you haven't.
Yeah, once we went. We didn't stay there
Okay.
very long though. We
It
were there
feels like
like a day.
it feels like a very Jason Schweitzer type of place.
Yeah, right. Because all the voodoo. I'm a voodoo kind of
Yes,
guy.
it's because
That's
of the
it.
voodoo. That's what it
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know. So what were do you have any thoughts on India, Natalie? Do you have any comments?
Ah,
How did you like Mumbai? Just,
ah,
no, I'm just kidding.
India, I will say, I have traveled a lot, and India is the hardest place I've ever traveled to. Um, because I have never traveled anywhere before where I'm always like, oh, like, because I love the cultures, I like learning about them, and I like, embracing them for what they are, and trying to adapt to them. And I tried that for like the first week of India, and then I was like, forget it, this sucks. It's just awful. And I think for me, it's terrible because it's so hard being like a woman in India. And it's particularly hard being a white woman in India, especially like in the South, because we started in the South, and we were in a very traditional part of India in Madurai. And it was like, it was just tough. It was really tough. I got like hugged a lot on the street. I got kissed a lot on the cheek. It was just like, whoa, there's no personal space here. There are people taking pictures of me with me all the time. And like, granted, sometimes it was like they were taking pictures of all of us, but like most of the time it was me.
Yeah,
That was super fun.
I think they think you're famous over there because I had one kid, just some random kid. He asked me to tell Ellen DeGeneres hi for him, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do that when I get home.
Yeah,
I'm
sure,
like,
no problem.
we're
I
pals.
will I will say though, Mumbai was funny because we got there, and like originally Jessica had booked us this tour because it was like the end of the trip, and she's like, you're gonna have like a relaxing time, whatever. And she booked us this tour that was like tour the slums or whatever. And we were like, we're not going on this tour. We've seen the slums. We don't need to tour them. Like, it's okay. It's fine. And so we like didn't go on the tour. And then she was like, well, there's
That's a
also
weird tour. Like, why is that a tour?
super weird, right? It's a
Yeah.
weird tour. Also, they like, you go into someone's house and they like feed you and stuff, which is kind of cool. But also it's like, we've been in people's houses, they fed us. We've been to the slums. We're okay. We don't need to do a tour for this. But there was this other thing she told us. She was like, this is on the list too. It's called Chow Patty Beach. Like, it's supposed to be really beautiful. We looked at pictures of it before we left the hostel, and we were like, yeah, that seems nice. It's also like crazy hot out. So let's go to the beach. We can walk there. It's only like an hour and a half walk, something like that. So we start walking, and like, I have never thought that I was gonna have a heat stroke before, but like literally we're walking and like pouring sweat, and like we did not drink enough water. And so by the time we get to like, we're like halfway there, and I think I looked at Jason and I was like, this is going to be the most underwhelming beach I've ever seen because everything in Mumbai is just covered in trash, you know? So it's like the pictures look nice, but we'll see what happens. So we like finally get there and we walk onto the beach and it's covered in garbage and it's like roped off because they're like, don't get in the water, it's bad for you. And so we just like walk out there and we just stand there and we just look at it and we're like,
Oh yeah, I forgot they came by because we tried to go touch the water and they got mad at us and we had to like run down and touch it real quick. Yeah, because they didn't want you touching the water. Yeah, it was so much. And that's just how they are over there. They just throw their trash on the ground when they're done. So there's trash everywhere.
yeah.
And then
But
and I tried it and it feels so weird. I had like a
does.
gum wrapper and I'm like, and you feel like you're committing like the ultimate sin or something. You're like,
it does. It's terrible.
it's weird. It's really strange.
It is. But we like, I don't know. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Now that I've had time away to process, I'm like, okay, I want to go back to India and especially the northern part. Loved it. I thought it was amazing. The culture was really fun. The people were really nice. But yeah, it was definitely the toughest place I've been because I like to do things alone. Like I like to have the option of walking the streets by myself. And that just was not an option for me.
Yeah.
And that was so frustrating because I was like, I hate feeling unsafe because of my gender. If that makes sense. Like it's just very frustrating. But besides that, it was great. It was fun because it was such a different experience and I didn't feel culture shock at all while I was there. But it was like the minute we hit the soil in the US, we were all like, whoa.
Yeah.
Where were we?
It is weird because you get back to the US and you're like coming into the Atlanta airport, you see Black people, white people, Asian people. And when you're in India, it's just all Indian people and which is fine. It's just weird like that because you're used to it here.
Just a variety.
And it's like we really are probably the most like culturally diverse, accepting country there is. We're always complaining about that we're not, but you get back home from somewhere like that and you're like, oh, this is so refreshing. Like it's just kind of nice just seeing the melting pot and you're like, this is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, this is my hot take on India. Sorry.
It is a culture shock for sure. It is like in the noise, it's overwhelming to every sense. Like nonstop honking all the time. The smells are like you're walking, you get the best smell of a restaurant. 2 steps further, it smells like pee and poop because someone just like pooped in the street or something. Yeah, because people just go down in the alley and do that or something if they have
and then when you're crossing the street, it's like playing Frogger. You're like you walk and then
that was fun. That was fun. Once you get used to once you get used to it, it's fun because it literally is Frogger. You just walk out. There's traffic coming, and you just walk out, and you just try to go and stop and get in between.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic, guys! It's so good to see you.
It's good to see you too. It's been fun.
Jason, I've got some books I need to mail you. Send me your mailing address.
Okay. All right.
One is a borrow because it's out of print and I can't find a copy.
Yeah, I remember you saying. Okay.
But I want to keep it. And the other, I got an extra copy of a book that I thought you would like. So
cool. Can you say what they are? Or is it a surprise?
Yeah. Well, one is a Peter Pan. It's a French comic from probably maybe 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And
do I have to know French?
Peter Pan. No, it's been translated, but the English translation, I guess they only put it out for like a year and then haven't been able to find it since.
Do you want to do another video about Peter Pan then, since you said you're a big fan? Because I just read the book, like I've listened to it twice. I just read through it probably a month ago.
It has been a while since I have, but I'd potentially be game for it.
Yeah, all right, cool.
So Peter Pan, of a fan than I used to be.
Okay.
I don't like dislike it, but I used to be like real enthusiast for it. Now I'm like, oh, Peter Pan, that's fun.
All right. Yeah, I'm excited about this book then. French.
The other is also a French translated to English graphic novel called Three Shadows. And I know you like finding allegory and fairy tales and things like that, and it's real steeped in that. And I figure
cool. Yeah, that sounds great.
Beautifully drawn. It's got a very lyrical line to it that I think is real neat.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. I'm excited. Yeah, I'll send you my address. So that'll be fun.
And Natalie, knowing that you are good at climbing over things and walking, Next time we're all at the property, there are some places that I want to explore that I am hesitant to do so myself because I don't know how easy it is to get back.
Okay.
But there are like quite a few places. Like I got a map of like where the property line is versus where we go.
Mhm.
And it is a very small percentage. And that's mostly just because a lot of it is sort of inaccessible at the onset. Like you have to go across the river and up some rocks to get to the, and then, things level out and they open up and things like that. But like,
Yeah.
it's tough to start. And I'm really curious as to like what all is in that, up on those mountains and in the dense grove that we can't really get to.
Can I tag
Yeah.
along?
I would
Yeah.
love
All right.
Yeah.
Anybody
Okay.
who wants to, I think it'll be neat. But
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
something that I'm wanting to do is basically like note on a map where different landmarks are and where different trails are, so that um it's not a thing. I think there's a thing where like our generation, or am I know I'm Jason's generation. Am I your generation, Natalie, or am I up one?
I think I'm like right on the border. I think I'm technically Gen Z. I'm right on the
Okay.
teetering on the line. So
I'm the geriatric millennial, I think is what they call it.
yeah.
As a kid, white beard. But no, I meant like family generation. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
know that we're technically part of the same group, but there's that second wave that I think starts with Aaliyah.
Oh yeah. So I'm in the second wave.
So you're in the second wave. But anyway,
The second one.
but like my group and your group and even some of the kids are occasionally like finding new things at the property, and they're like, we found this new thing and nobody's been to it before. And one of the uncles or answer, my mom or somebody will be like, oh yeah, we used to go up there like 40
Yeah.
years ago. And I'm like, well, we have no context for this sort of thing. So I feel like if we start to map out where things are, then it's less likely to get lost as
Time goes on.
the older folks pass away and the younger folks stop going out into the woods and whatever it might be. Um so I've started doing that, and I think it could be something that we could all contribute to.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Make a big Google Doc you can draw on in Photoshop or something.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that sounds cool.
So,
Sweet.
all right, well, let you guys go. It's so good to see you
good to see you
both.
too.
I look forward to seeing you both in person before too long.
Yes.
And if you ever find yourself up near Nashville and want to come out this way, do so. We'd love to host you.
Sure.
All right. Same
All right.
to you.
Later.
See ya.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.